Continuing the chase. Now, when this sermon title originally came into being, it was not intended to reflect that I had been on vacation for 2 weeks and this is my first week back, though it could be appropriate in that way. Oh, it was wonderfully relaxing in Sequoia and Yosemite parks, as well as in San Francisco. And by the look of our attendance today, there's others out enjoying other sites today as well. And I can't exactly preach against that. But I was wondering about how things would return to normal. Would there be things the same when I returned? For instance, Monday morning, this was before I even left the house. I went outside because our rain gauge was filled with water. Apparently it had rained during the 2 weeks we were gone. And so I opened the screen door off of onto the outside deck. Opened the door, closed it, and something flew close to me, like the hummingbirds sometimes do. And I swatted at it gently. And then another closer swoop, and I swatted less gently. And then the pain started. 2 spots. There had been a whole group of wasps who moved in and had attached themselves to the screen door frame while we were gone, thinking that it was a vacant property. They had 2 weeks to do what it is that they do. They were good at continuing their purpose, build a nest, defend the nest, and then reproduce more wasps. They did it very well. And by the time I came into the office, I was nursing 2 bites. So, it's easy to start off the week by saying, sometimes it's easy for us to continue on our planned chase route. And sometimes we get bit and we stop. I never did empty the rain gauge that morning. It took me 4 days to feel safe enough to go out and do that. And sometimes along the route, we get surprised by changes, such as our office manager, Leah Minners, appropriately needing to resign while I was on vacation, or long-term relationships, such as one with Ryan's place, changing because of their growth, or even Pastor Steve's resignation. You know, these changes happen. In the drama we just had, the question was about encountering heaven, but it links in with how do we continue the chase. The drama, we have Peter here once again. Oh, and I really appreciate Peter as a character, as a person, as one of the early church leaders. He had a question for every occasion. And after the drama, the question comes back to us: what happens in Church of the Brethren conversations? We don't tend to talk much about heaven. Why is that the case? One of the books I was reading over vacation was about Anna Beam Mao. Anna was a beloved seminary professor, and she was a well-known missionary as well. Oh, and she had such a good description about a Church of the Brethren view of heaven and earth. Here's what was written. There are two kinds of people. They are described by the Latin phrase sub specia ad eternitatis. Basically, it's eternal with an A and a few extra letters. And sub specia temporaris. Literally, one group is those who live with an eternal view. The other is those who live with a temporary view. The first, eternal view, see themselves as part of a great continuum of humanity, struggling to fulfill the Creator's overall plan for human destiny. Their reason for living is to find and to fulfill their own infinitesimal part of the total design. The latter group, the temporary, they spend time worshiping the small gods of self-gratification and little responsibility for their relationships with other human beings or God. The here and now is all that matters. Oh, the second group may give a nod to God, thinking that they'll do just enough to get a key to heaven. But that's not the focus of life. The Beam family, of which Anna was born out of, was based on the eternal view. It was a solid foundation on which Anna had begun her beginning. For us, when one lives by the eternal view, then heaven is simply another step, the same as each day's step in commitment and trying to live a life worthy of Jesus Christ. Heaven is not the same big deal that it might be for people who are only thinking about heaven and not about their earthly living. Living faithfully each day, that's the big deal. Well, but still the question haunts me as to why some people find it easier to remain on that path towards eternal, consistent commitment. Put another way, why do some people continue the chase? Why can some people group together and the whole group continues the chase? There was a story. This story comes from the early Christian hermits of Egypt. That means this story was first told in the 4th century. That means between 1,000 and 2,000 years ago, not yesterday. For me, the reassurance is the issues in the past 2,000 years haven't changed a whole lot about basic human beings. Our technology changes, but not who human beings are. Here is the story. It seems that there was a young person who was yearning to be more holy and came to visit the hermitage of an old holy man. The man was sitting in the entryway of his quarters at sunset, and the old man's dog was stretched out, relaxing on the threshold. And the young man presented his problem to the holy man. Why is it, Abba, that some who seek God come to the desert and they are zealous in prayer. But after a year, they leave. While others, like you, remain faithful to the quest for a lifetime. Oh, the old man smiled and replied, "Let me tell you a story." One day, I was sitting here quietly in the sun with my dog. Suddenly, a large white rabbit ran across in front of us. Well, my dog jumped up and barked and took off after that big rabbit. He chased the rabbit over the hills with a passion. And soon other dogs joined him, attracted by all their barking. What a sight it was as the packs of dogs barked along up the creeks, up the stony embankments, and through the thickets and thorns. Gradually, however, one by one, the other dogs, they dropped out. They no longer did the pursuit. They were discouraged by the course, and they were frustrated by the chase. Only my dog continued to hotly pursue that white rabbit. In this story, young man, is the answer to your question. Finally, the young man said, "Abba, I don't understand. What is the connection between the rabbit chase and the quest for holiness?" The holy man replies, "You fail to understand because you failed to ask the obvious question. That question is, why didn't the other dogs continue on the chase?" And the answer to that question is, they had not seen the rabbit. Unless you see your prey, the chase is just too difficult. You will lack the passion and determination, that passion and determination that is necessary to perform all the hard work required by the discipline of your spiritual exercises. If we do not have a real experience of the divine in some form, we will lack the energy necessary to keep us in that pursuit for holiness. Like the dogs in the story, we will drop out. If we are only following saints and mystics, ones who they had seen the rabbits, but we haven't, then we will end the race. If we are only caught up in the enthusiasm of others, we will fail to be constant in our search. And so ends the story of the rabbit chase and the wisdom of an old holy man. So have you seen the rabbit? Oh, the rabbit is the image of God, God at work. Have you seen that God, our God, at work in our world and in your lives? We had the motivation to be helping and reaching out to the Church of the Brethren in Nigeria out of our love for Christ, because many of us have had those experiences with Christ. We can keep going on that journey of faith irregardless of the twists and turns and surprises and reminders. That is us, Goshen City Church of the Brethren, continuing on the race. That is also the many churches in this world claiming Christ in our communities, in our nation, in the entire world. We have seen the rabbit. We have seen the work of Jesus. That is why we support people in our midst, because we can see the needs and the work of Christ, the potential for what can happen. Oh, with Berkey's this week, it was easy for people to go to be supportive at the auction or to encourage Barb throughout her rehabilitation process. And this is why we continue to support Christian service work at the Window and Camp Mac and human needs at Chamberlain Schools and Habitat Builds and individuals here when there are untimely deaths and so much more. We have seen Christ. We can join our hearts with others. We can join our hearts and hands and work for justice and service and love for our neighbor. And know that whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whenever you see God at work, whenever you the Spirit in your prayer life, whenever those stories of Christ are yours, or you have been a part of them once more, then the chase is easy to continue. Oh, it's a long and joyful journey, best done with a group in unity. It's a long journey, but we can continue that chase. Keep chasing, my friends. Amen.